Welcome. So again, Termii from Tizeti. Tizeti is building the physical infrastructure for the digital economy. We are leveraging our solar-powered base station to provide reliable, cost-efficient internet across Africa, specifically Nigeria and Ghana, but we're expanding to Francophone within the next couple of months. I think we're going to have a very interesting panel because we have a lot of verticals in here. We have people who are protecting us online. We have people who are building products online. We have people who are developing a lot of solutions online. So I'm sure that we'll have a very dynamic session. Quick context. But I think I'll run through that context after the introductions, please. Introduction starting from Taha, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Taha Jiwaji. I'm the founder of Beam. Beam is a cloud communications platform that enables businesses to communicate with their customers on the phone across Africa on any mobile channel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Famous Prior Ehichioya. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of YouVerify. YouVerify is a digital identity management company. We provide KYC and KYB for businesses, startups, and enterprises. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gbolade Emmanuel, and I'm the CEO of Termii. Termii is building a communications infrastructure for businesses, right? So we help these businesses to both verify, authenticate, and engage customers, right? So we are basically enabling different sectors. For example, Alezo, Omnibiz, Cheaper Cash, Paystack, and a bunch of other companies, basically. So we are basically embedded in that ecosystem to really drive interaction between these businesses and their customers. Thank you.
Hello. So my name is Gbolabo, Awelewa. So I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Infoprive. So at Infoprive, we're a business information security company. So we are charged with helping companies secure their infrastructure, their business operations, and from a broadband perspective, network communications. So the interest is focusing on defense in depth from where you get your access to data and how you provide your services to your customers. So today, a lot of my customers are fintechs, payment companies, and tech companies that are trying to provide access or service to their customers in a secure manner, typically.
All right, thank you. So very quick context. And I'm sure a lot of people know what broadband is. You know, at least you've seen in the papers, or you have seen some of the reports, the broadband gap, the digital gap that still exists. Currently, they say Africa has maybe about 40% broadband penetration, largely mobile, because everybody has, we know the mobile telephony and mobile tele-density. Most people have not one, not two, but multiple lines, and then they use that for broadband. So broadband in Africa is largely mobile, as against fixed for most parts of the world. Most continents have, Asia has maybe about 75% and above. North America has about 80%. Europe has about 89% of fixed. That means that out of every 100 houses, homes, offices, the 89% have fixed broadband to their houses. And we sort of now understand the context, the gap here in Nigeria. If we ask how many people have fiber or they have wireless to their homes, the number is much lower. So we're trying to look at some of the conversations and how we can drive broadband forward. We have, Africa has about 120 terabytes capacity, and 120 terabytes capacity should ensure, if the right infrastructure was put in place, that everybody had unlimited internet in their houses. But most of the challenge is the absence of last mile to middle mile infrastructure. You all know that Google landed its cable barely a few weeks ago, which should be yay for all of us, really. But unless the physical infrastructure gap is bridged and we have more people take that capacity from where Google has dropped it on the seashores and takes it into your house or to your office. That's actually where the challenge is. And then briefly, in pushing broadband, there are two angles to it. And extensively, we all know about some of the push, regulation to ensure that broadband is available, cheaper. We have open access models to ensure that anybody can use anybody's fiber infrastructure. We have also operators building, operators like Main One, Tizeti, Google building everywhere. But then the pull really is where the issue is, and that is what I hope we can discuss a bit more extensively on this session. So everybody uses WhatsApp, right? You probably came on WhatsApp because most of your friends were already on WhatsApp, right? So that is the pull. Nobody forced you to use WhatsApp. It's because you found out that all your friends were on WhatsApp, you now used it. And the power of network effects plays here. You came on Facebook because everybody was on Facebook. So it pulled you in. And then we need to build on this physical infrastructure that operators are laying. We need to build layers and layers on services, because that is what will pull people in. Because it's enough. It's not enough for government or operators to say, we're going to provide broadband in Lagos, or we're going to wire up Nigeria. You hear NCC talk a lot about 50% penetration. But if there are limited pool services, if, for instance, we cannot effectively do our passport end-to-end online, if we do passport end-to-end online, everybody will go online, right? Because you have to get your passport. Or you want to access tax services, you want to pay your tax, or you want to access any form of government services. You have to do all that online. So we're going to talk a bit more. We're going to talk quite a bit on some of the pool services. So I'll just start from anybody. Your company and what you do. Can you tell us a bit about how you play in the digital economy, either now or the future digital economy? Let's start with Gbolabo.
Hello? Okay, all right, so good. Okay, so maybe it's a good point to start from me because, so I'm most likely a service provider to everybody on this, on the stage. And when I engage, what I try to always push is don't make business information security or cybersecurity an afterthought. So at the point of planning, envisioning, ideation, you need to think of the security of either customer data or access to your services. So by default, what we've done so far in the digital economy is be able to help sanitize from a security operations point of view, which is delivering on your business objectives to the customer, leveraging on data, of course, leveraging on broadband access to meet your customers, but in a secure manner. So to do this, there's a regulation aspect where the regulator has said payment companies, fintechs, technology companies, irrespective of the technology you are bringing, comply to specific standards. So we help you comply to standards, meet best practices, and also now ensure your operations are secure. So at every stage, that is where it comes in, even to the level of broadband access, which is, so today for us to do our job, so we run a managed security service to all our clients. To do that, we need steady and broadband access to the internet. And why do we need that? So for real time, keyword is real time, from a transactional point of view, from an access to data point of view, real-time access to data, real-time access to logs of activities per transaction, from a response to activities, from a user experience point of view. So for the digital economy, we would say we look at, I think there was a report that came up last year that we have about 6 unicorns, and I can proudly say that 4 of the 6 unicorns are customers of Infoprive. And typically what we help them do is that as they, innovate and meet their strategic objectives, we are ensuring they are doing this from a security perspective. Because, so let me give you a typical example. Let's say broadband comes to everybody. You get broadband for free. You also know that means vulnerabilities for free. So the question is, when you get free broadband, how are you securing the broadband? Are you checking with your provider that the access is secure? Or are you putting controls in place to ensure your infrastructure is secure, your customer data is secure? So that's the role we play in the digital economy.
All right, thank you. I think it's essentially the follow the money. People typically used to go to banks to steal before, to rob. But now that everything has moved online, the robbers, the fraudsters have also moved online, and people like Gbolabo are here to protect everyone online. So, to you, Gbolade.
Okay, I think before I talk about myself, so what we do in the digital economy, I think I'd like to comment what they are doing, right? Because it's really essential, and that's one of the things that we're also heavily focused on at Termii, right, is also security, basically. For example, at our office in California, basically, if you want to use systems, right, if you want to open certain sites, you just notice that, it's not even the office Wi-Fi that is blocking it. It's the provider themselves that are blocking certain that's access, basically. So you can't really access certain things, Sometimes even if you want to access it, you need to make a request that the company needs access to something like this. So, that chilled me somehow. I was like, so I can't just literally do anything, basically. So that's why, from a security standpoint, opening broadband to everyone means that, certain things will be open. So how do we checkmate some of these things? Not just from the regulator standpoint, but even from the businesses that are reselling this broadband to the, businesses and the end users, right? So it really makes a lot of sense. For us, currently, how we are enabling this economy, and also how we are also, playing our own little way in the whole broadband system, right? Basically, is the fact that, so I like to come from the point of the consumer themselves, right? And not just from the businesses, basically. So in my own case, I usually use the case study of the woman in the hospital trying to, deliver a child. The hospital's not going to allow, the service to go through because a payment has not been made, right? And sometimes the problem with the payment is not the payment provider on the, EMS of the hospital. No, it's just simply the fact that they couldn't verify the transaction. So the hospitals can't see the alert that money has come in, or the system is not processing it because the payment did not go through due to a failed OTP or a failed notification, right? So, and that can be a major problem. It can it can destroy lives, basically, right? Someone trying to pay for school fees, they're about to send them out of school, and they're like, where's the alert? In fact, agent bankers, right? We deal a lot with a lot of the agency companies, and agent bankers are being mocked sometimes just because of, the money that was deposited. There's no notification to really show that this payment has been done. And that money that the person is paying is his last card. So he wants to know that the transaction went through and all of that, right? So our job there is to ensure that these businesses deliver on the values that they say they deliver on, right, to to the consumer, to the end user. So from the point of verifying the transaction to the point of authenticating that this transaction is actually legit, to the point of engaging the customer that this transaction actually went through, right? So we play in that space, right? So that entire infrastructure that powers it. And I usually tell people it's beyond messaging. The infrastructure is not just messaging, right? Infrastructure goes beyond that. It goes to checking if numbers are accurate, checking if numbers, have defaulted, checking, enabling easy payment for the companies to restock their accounts, making a lot of things very easy. Even the teams, ensuring that the teams in those companies are working seamlessly. They can access different things, right? So enabling the entire communication infrastructure for these companies to ensure that their end result, right, is very effective, right? And that's really where we play. So we support a bunch of these fintechs that are really coming up, and some that are really doing amazing stuff. And we're really proud to, and even in the retail space, we're proud to also play in different pockets to enable this pull consumers from the general public online, and also allow these companies push their services to them also, basically.
All right, thank you. Famous.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. I think Gbolabo has already spoken from the point of compliance from the business. There are several enablers to digital economy. The internet, broadband is one of them. But there is an aspect that is often neglected, and that is compliance. Not until recently, it's not really a serious matter in Nigeria. As you can see, there are so many startups right now in this space, right? And it's still new, especially here in Africa. To put in context, we have over 4 billion people using the internet in the world. And on the average, people spend 6 hours every day on the internet. And this is where compliance comes into place. Otherwise, we would have spent our time building all this infrastructure for criminal elements to leverage and exploit. So how do we make sure these 4 billion individuals are secure while they are using the internet? That's where compliance and digital identity come into place. We at YouVerify, it's something that, a problem that we are solving, because I believe every single one of us here have digital footprints, and we are registered on no less than 90 different services. That's the average for every person. And we most time don't even remember what kind of information we have on this site. So privacy is one of the issues of the digital economy, but there's a solution for that, which is compliance. How do you solve that? It's by taking digital identity seriously. So at YouVerify, we solve that by having a digital wallet where individuals can put in their identifiable information. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it can identify them. All of your IDs, your bank accounts, your bank cards, anything that remotely identify who you are as a person. And also, this wallet also lets you have some form of audit log of where you have digital footprints. I think Gbolabo mentioned auditory during his speech. So this product allows you to know where you have given your details. Titilope mentioned WhatsApp. A lot of us don't even know what WhatsApp have on us. Funny enough, because WhatsApp is GDPR compliant, there is a way for you to download that information. But a lot of us don't even do that. And it's intentionally hidden in the application how to get that information. But the way we are solving that information is that if you want to register for services, these services we need to request for the information they want from you, and you will grant access. And that platform saves audit log for every single information that you have given them. You see, this puts you as an individual in control, right? And in recent times, there have been a lot of password breaches. You hear Facebook has been compromised. Most recently, it was alleged that NIMC was compromised. Yeah, I think it was down for over 2 weeks. I know, because we are kind of like a partner, right? So, but a lot of us don't know which of our information has been compromised. At YouVerify, we are also solving problems like that. We have a solution that notifies you when any of your information has been compromised, that is in the public space. When that happens, you get a notification through an email that, for example, your Facebook account due to the recent announcement of hacking, your details was part of it. And then you can go ahead to maybe close your account, change your login details, and all of that. So compliance is a serious aspect of digital economy that we need to take very seriously. Otherwise, we will end up building all this fantastic infrastructure, powering these enablers for criminal elements to just ride on and then exploit everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Famous. So Taha.
I want to come back to the topic was, kind of enablers, right, for the digital economy. And this stat you mentioned around, penetration, broadband penetration, mobile penetration, right? So across the continent, it's in that 30–40% range that people are. So there's, massive number of people that are not online and not consuming all the services that, all the cool things that we're all building. People are not accessing them. And even if they do have access, they may not have enough money to pay for it. So, one stat I've heard is that, if 30% have smartphones, only 20% would actually have a data bundle that's active at any point in time. So that's even fewer people actually are online trying to use these services, right? But what are the people using these? What are people getting online for? It's A, to communicate, like you said, WhatsApp. It's to play games, right? It's to do commerce, to buy things and transact, and to do utilities and kind of get things done, right? So these are some of the things that people get online for or are using data for on their phone or on their PC. So like at Beam, what we're trying to do is solve the commerce piece, right? How do we enable more businesses to serve more customers online and offline, right? Because we understand there's so many people that are offline, the business needs to be able to do both, right? You can't just say, I'm only going to serve the online customers because that's such a smaller segment. So what happens to all the rest of them? So that's why, communication channels like SMS, USSD are still very relevant because there's such a big portion of consumers that are still offline. And we help provide that infrastructure across multiple African countries for businesses to still serve their customers. And then on the flip side, for businesses that are already digital enabled and are serving digitally enabled customers, we're kind of enabling them with tools that allow them to serve their customers on chat and some of these other channels, as well as give them notifications via SMS, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, everyone has to understand kind of what are the drivers, why do people get online, and then, what piece are we solving for really these consumer segments? And we're trying to really solve the commerce piece and really enable businesses to keep staying in touch with their customers.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Taha. And I think that's a very good segue, talking about online and offline. Because no matter how we dice it, we still have, especially now, a larger chunk of people who are unable to access anything online. And we have to have a way of getting across to them. So I'm going to start from you now. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we have a very interesting panel. We have the policemen of the internet who are securing us online. We have people who are producing automation services to better engage customers. We have people who are verifying, who are identifying people online and also sort of tracking everything that they do. And we have people who are sort of tackling online, offline engagement to ensure that however we can, we must ensure that we move content and move productivity tools to everybody. So I want to start with you. So what can we do to sort of move more people, to get more people online, obviously, to get them into the digital economy? The reason why I'm saying this is because we see when the 5G phase now, 6G is going to come in a couple of months or so. Everybody, it's about smart world, smart tech, smart everything, right? and the world is moving on. So we have to sort of move at that pace. How do we, based on what you do, what you have seen in the industry, especially so let's start with Nigeria. What can we do to move people who are offline, online? So we have the traditional barriers. If you look at internet clusters, people typically, we may say that we have 35% or maybe 40% internet penetration in Nigeria. However, we know the clusters is Lagos, there is Abuja, there is Port Harcourt, and there may be one other state, and the rest is dark, right? How do we move those guys online to benefit from some of the services we are benefiting on and participating fully and contributing to the digital economy?
I'll come back to kind of what I was talking about, right? What are the drivers to really get someone online? And it's, even before, commerce and it's like fundamental things that every person needs is what's going to drive them to say, I have to get online because of this, right? So, maybe it's transport. So, are things like Uber and Bolt or buying a bus ticket, if it's, the only way to get them is online, then they're going to have to it's going to force them to say, okay, I need access to this channel. So, transport, food, like these fundamental things, or receiving money, obviously the fintech space is big. And these are some of the things that are going to be the key drivers first, at the baseline to get people online, right? Because they need money for whatever. They need to go from A to B. Or they need to pay their taxes, or some regulatory thing. So these are some of the fundamental things they're going to need first to get them online. And then once we have them online, that's when the second tier of businesses, the content providers, the communication platforms, the social commerce, these are the things then kind of the second level of need that people will be asking for and will drive more consumption and uptake, right? So I think that's kind of how I play it. Everyone has a part to play. You have the foundational piece, and then kind of everything sits on top, right?
All right, thank you, Taha. So famous.
I think Taha gave a very good point, because if people realize a lot of what they need to access is online, they will find their way to get there, to get such services. But it's not always as simple and as easy like that, because most of these places that don't have high internet penetration, they are lacking something, which is the infrastructure to power that service. So I would say what should be done is investments in the broadband sector in those states. And sometimes it's not like there's no investment. Sometimes there are no favorable policy for this investment to come. So I think state governments and regulators in those states or from the federal level should make it very easy for internet to penetrate Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Because it's funny enough, there is a recent announcement by Elon Musk of his internet company, Starlink, coming to Nigeria. He announced it. I think we were the last of what he needs to cover the whole continent. So, yeah, but Starlink is still expensive, right? So I think for also the price of these services also needs to come down. But I believe if there are a lot of supply, a lot of actors coming into this space, it's going to help, right? And also to note, most of these areas without good internet broadband, they have low economic activity, right? And they are also, if you look again, there are also some of those states with high poverty rates. So I think it's in the hands of the government to invest more in that sector, have favorable policies so as to attract outside investments. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
I wanted to add one more thing, actually. Education's also a barrier, right? Like, if you look at folks that like my parents' age, right? They maybe have the means to get online, right? But they are afraid because they don't know, or it's the unknown. Maybe they'll do something wrong, or someone will con them, right? And you get a lot of these phishing scams, etc., right? So education's also a barrier to driving digital literacy, digital uptake of services, right? Because the more people are comfortable with the medium and understand it well, then they'll use it, right?
I think that's a great point. I was reflecting on your point. It's a bit of a chicken and egg. Which comes first? So people, businesses want they want reliable connectivity to be able to sell, right? Or no, let me just use an example. So one of the things operators typically look out for when they are going to a new space, like you've mentioned, you want to look at spending power, can people afford the population, and then typically we also look at maybe higher institutions, tertiary institutions. You sort of know that there's a bit of pull there. There are people who in high school, in university, they are going to consume a bit more internet. They probably have a bit more funds. But then at what point do you now know whether, okay, I want to invest here, will I get my money back? What will drive it? If I invest here, will I get my money back? And if these guys have the digital skills and the broadband, will they be able to generate enough to sort of pay long term? But I think those are very, very, very interesting and very sound points. So, Gbolade, what are your thoughts?
So, okay, maybe I might be a little bit, I might come from another angle, to be honest, right? See, I've lived in Nigeria all my life, right? I've done certain things in the West African part of the country. So some things are not, I've seen the reality, right? I've lived that life, right? I've stayed in Ibadan for a long time, I've interacted with customers from different places, basically. And currently, in the capacity where I work from, right, I have the privilege, right, of dealing with companies who deal with the last end mile, right? Companies I really appreciate, really, the work they are doing. And I'm not hyping any company here, but really, it opened my eyes to see a lot of things. Companies like Bankly, companies like Teamapt, right? These companies, they are basically dealing with the last 10 mile guys, right? And I feel their pain when they are talking to us, basically. We get it wrong sometimes to think that, see, there is money in these other states. It's not just Lagos or Abuja. See, Maduguri, Kano, Katsina, Imo, all these places. See, commerce is going on there steadily. But it's just that there are a lot cash-based there, right? Transactions are happening there, basically. And now we'll be deceived to think that those people are not, yes, they might be illiterate in some places. When I mean illiterate, like not everyone is in tertiary, but they have some level of literacy, right, in that sense. So we might think them to be that, okay, these guys, because they're in these areas, they are not well educated. No. These guys, they are doing transactions that some of us in Lagos are not doing. So are you telling me that they are not literate also? You understand? So in all those places, things are happening there, right? But the point is still to his point, which is infrastructure, right? See, they still deal heavily on what we call the normal SMS and all of that, right? Now, in those places, looking at transactions happening with the companies like I mentioned, Teamapt, Bankly, you see transactions happening in those areas more than they are happening, in Lagos, basically. So you know that these guys, and the devices, the POS that they are using there, are all digitally enabled, right? So somehow, those people are catching up, basically. However, the system that we are in, the regulatory system, the infrastructure, it's not making them catch up, right? So that's why it looks like things are slow and they are not being digitally enabled, basically, right? So, if more investments, not just from the government, right? But first of all, if the regulation allows partnership between private and public to work seamlessly, we'll see much more investment go there from the private entities, also to support those infrastructures that are happening. Like Tizeti, for example, you guys are doing amazing stuff, right? So those kind of things, if there are more enabling, more policies that allows you guys to do, because I know that you guys you understand. So the point is, if you are allowed to do what you want to do, right, a lot of those places will be unlocked. But then it's not so easy, right? It's as if you guys are pushing and they are being pushed back at, right? So it's a problem that is a reality that we are faced in, right? So for people to come online, right, some basic foundations need to be laid. You know, in Nigeria, in Togo, in Ivory Coast, those foundations need to be laid first of all to really now allow the people themselves to begin to utilize tools that will pull them online. That's just my own honest view, to be honest.
All right, thank you. So to quickly sell my market, we're actually moving to some of those states that he's mentioned. Currently, in our view, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Abia, Anambra, Imo, and Enugu, because we see. Typically, those guys don't have. They probably have MNOs. They have mobile network operators. They're serving them. And there's limited, they have very limited ISP activity, and you can't build the digital economy. You can't build your apps, your super apps with the sort of internet that is currently available there. So we have seen the demand. We know that at some point the revenue will come, but the first thing is to provide the service there so that they can come in, get on board, participate, learn more, and begin to contribute to the future economy. So I'll take Gbolabo's last comment, and then we'll just have a final recap. The organizers are already telling us we've run out of time. So Gbolabo.
Okay, all right. So I will try as much as possible not to be a wet blanket. And and I'll look at it, I will give you from this perspective. So from a user perspective, if there's any question I get from users and people that know that I'm tech savvy, I understand tech and how things work, is the question they ask is, what platform is the most secure for me to do my business? What platform is the most secure for me to run my investments? What platform is the most secure for me to, carry out my business generally, anything I need to do? So I agree with you on investments in infrastructure, but I think it's very important as you invest in infrastructure, security should not be an afterthought. And I will give you an example of my mother-in-law. So she calls me and she tells me her friend is receiving SMS alerts. So somehow her card holder details have been gotten and someone is carrying out transactions and it's overwhelming everybody in church. So what happened that day is every digital business lost all the moms in church to leverage their platform that day. They won't use internet banking, they won't buy airtime online, they won't do anything through any platform because a church member was receiving SMS alerts and she doesn't know who is doing it. So first is security. So you can run all the investments on the digital economy, but if you are not securing the investments, which is as we are putting broadband access and we are telling them that free internet access or affordable internet access, you have to include secure internet access. As in, it's critical because the first person that gets breached, you lose a long train of onboarders, people trying to come on board to leverage your service and to patronize your business. So if you are not complying to standards, which is from a regulatory point of view, if you are not implementing security controls to your business processes, if you are not securing your customer data, if you are not ensuring the right controls in place, irrespective of customer experience. So you want your customers to enjoy interfacing with your platforms. So you don't want to limit them with multiple factor authentication. You need to find a way to communicate to them that that security step is for their own good, to secure the experience. So it's still an experience, but you are securing the experience. So in all you do, ensure you're securing your investments. So that's it for me.
Yeah, sorry, can I just add to what he said? So just not to take much of your time. Now, what he said is very important because, and that's another way we've also been thinking, right? So we've also been thinking that in the sense of security and enabling that environment, it's a two-way thing, right? It's not just the companies that are generating maybe password. It's also the customers to need to be educated on the need also of that. And then this education should not be generic. It has to be something that they understand in their own language, in their own way, to understand that this thing is essential, and this is what makes this stuff work, basically, right? In all those areas, generally. And for us at Termii, we are really heavily invested resources into building infrastructures, right? For this last 10-mile people, right? This so-called people that look like they are offline, but they are not really offline, right? To really, really trickle down in education, also in the infrastructure itself, and also in enabling the businesses that also support them, and seeing how we can also be of help to reach them, because these businesses are the ones that you really trust. The financial people, the ones that are collecting money, anything that has to do with money, these people trust them more, right? And see, okay, how can we support these companies that are reaching them in these rural areas, right? How do we help these companies solve them better? And how do we educate them to also help them educate their customers that while building this infrastructure, it needs to be secure also, it needs to be effective, right? And they need to also play a part in the whole circle of the digital economy in general.
You have another point? Very quickly.
So I want to quickly speak on something. So there's a major threat to digital economy, one other one. So I've been hearing transaction, buying and selling online and all of that. Fraud and anti-money laundering is a major threat to digital economy. Yes, it is. And I'm sure a lot of us have seen the news in recent times about transaction monitoring, especially from the US, there's one from Kenya and all of that, although they are all allegedly. But these things are happening. They've been confirmed cases in the past, right? And I just want to bring it up so it will be at the fore of our minds that it's a threat. And how do you solve this? Is by verifying and identifying individuals that are performing this transaction. And what do you do when it's already happening? Is by what? Monitoring this transaction, right? And when it happens, what do you do? Is by reporting it to regulatory body. The bank have this means of reporting this kind of transaction to CBN. I'm sure you can speak more on that, right? So just want to bring it up because I just realized something that we've not spoken about. Thank you.
All right.
And again, at YouVerify, we have a solution for that. Thank you.
All right. So what I hear from our session really is, so we've talked a lot about the infrastructure part, and it's not only the fiscal digital infrastructure. We've also talked about payments infrastructure. We want to get more people online. We've talked about customer infrastructure, automation infrastructure. We've also talked about, obviously, I think that's probably the second dominant theme, security. The fact that as more people are coming online, you need to secure them end to end. Otherwise, our moms, and I'm sure at least one person here or two people here have had such an experience where an elderly person lost something due to someone getting access to some information they were not supposed to get access to. Education and training. Obviously, we want to build an army. For a digital economy, you need a digital army. So how do you upskill people for this digital army? So you need to build the right skills for that. And then we've talked about payment. So we will be wrapping up this. Thank you very much to my panelists, Gbolabo, Gbolade, Famous, and Taha. Please, a round of applause for them.